I'm currently M&C Saatchi in the group account director role, but I've been in digital for 12 years, and 7 out of those 12 specifically focused on mobile growth clients, helping them unlock success in a variety of environments. So some really young startups trying to promote the app and build it and drive discovery, and then also more mature like global brands that are looking to build out a marketing strategy and measure success. I mean, for gaming, I think it's obvious, right? Through retention, they can drive in-app purchases. There's a lot of other verticals. I think the business model definitely has some sort of dictates how valuable you'll find retention. For streaming apps, e-commerce, the maturity of the brand, like once you have established a foothold and you do have kind of some growth established, it becomes, I guess, a more sophisticated conversation around, how do we drive profitability? So actually, before my time at M&C Saatchi, when I was working with various startups, it was kind of an aha moment that you could be proving to investors that there's growth, but you're still losing money, right? Like it's not immediately efficient CAC. So it values, there's a lot for the marketing team to dig into the data and say, what's happening post-install and how can we fix the quote unquote leaky bucket, is really important, I think, for tons of different apps, including like AVOD, e-commerce, things like that. One of my clients that I worked with really closely was kind of like David and Goliath. They were the David in this ecosystem of a lot of really popular streaming apps like Netflix and Peacock and things. Like they were the little guy just launching a new streaming app, and they didn't have as deep of pockets. Within that space, it's really the focus. Yes, you want to have app installs is necessary as a first step, but you're really looking at monetizing people who come back and spend more time streaming. So what we learned together through the process was like access to data and understanding consumer behavior was going to drive more success for the retention, right? So we worked on this project where we looked at behaviors that we would group into flybys, lookalikes, or flybys, loyalist, passion. And you can do that even if you're not an AVOD app. You can look at different characteristics or behaviors, right? Like, is it the frequency of visits, or is it maybe like time spent or the average order value, right? Like, depending on the vertical, looking at those deeper data points to group your users. And then I guess the next stage after that is how are you messaging them, right? So for that particular client, when we first started, it was basic messaging about the top level brand benefits. The further we progressed and we started seeing an improvement in our retention and conversion rates was we got creative with that messaging. Can you create a sense of like FOMO or kind of remove barriers that keep people from using your app? That for them, that might be like reminding people of movies or content that leave the app soon. And I think I read somewhere that on average, we might have over 80 apps installed on our phone, which I checked mine. I was like, yeah, over 86 apps currently downloaded. So that tracks. But we're only using around 9 apps habitually per day, or opening 9 apps. And that might be different for different people, but that really struck me as kind of a point of why this is important, is that when you're looking at the acquisition campaigns, you think more of, okay, in the app store, there's billions of apps, like we've got to get our app discoverable. But you can't just stop there, right? Because once you've landed on that valuable ecosystem, someone downloaded you, there's such a high risk of just being forgotten about and your customer base kind of becoming the lapsed user. are so tightly integrated that it's hard to really have a strategy, the best paired together, I guess, is the elevator pitch to answer that question. And I think you have to have a steady stream of new users coming in order to even have that level of investment to retain them and monetize them. And then vice versa, if you're just focused on retention, that's obviously a short-sighted strategy, right? Because you're gonna tap out, right? And annoy people if you continuously hit them with a kind of the same stagnant messaging. So I would say that to be like healthy and thinking of long-term growth, you need to have a balanced budget between acquisition and retention. And I also think the creative really matters. Having a good partner in the ad tech space and measurement space matters. Because if you're just, retargeting people who have installed but have become inactive, that might have a limited scale. So where we think of it in two buckets is kind of getting your lapsed users, incentivizing them to come back, but then also looking at features, what do your power users love about the app? And how can you find not only more people that look like that type of user, I think surveying churned users or surveying your power users is really good information that could also help you elevate your targeting, your creative. So there's a lot of like digging beneath the layers to try and elevate the strategy. I guess like one of your questions when you were saying what's the relationship between acquisition and retention? And my response is, it's essential to pair them together. They're so tightly integrated. I think the same way about organic experience and then the paid retention. I think you really want to tackle and create app stickiness through both. In an ideal world, the organic experience is picture perfect and but it's not always feasible that experience is enough. Again, when you think of having 80 plus apps on your phone, right, it helps to put paid dollars and have a creative strategy that reminds users and incentivize them to come back. So I would tell somebody who's just starting that journey to keep in mind the potential value. Where like through that strategy, you're looking to take someone who might have been a flyby and create a loyal user. So you can unlock a lot of revenue through doing that. And I would say, make sure, spend your time looking at whether it's through your MMP or your organic data, what are the post-install metrics that indicate someone is going to be a high value user. One of our clients at M&C Saatchi is one of the largest like e-commerce marketplaces, but we kind of had the beginning of the relationship. We were talking about basic brand benefits that would drive people to install the app over other competitors like eBay or Walmart. And then further down the line, there was kind of a breakthrough in conversations to talk more about, could we customize the retention campaigns to be more about, other than installing the app, is it occasion-based purchases or average order value? What would cause someone to just come to this e-commerce app and spend $20 to $40 versus, $200 plus dollars, right? So how do we shift those users to understand that our app, our brand is actually, it's got great outdoor furniture or luxury retail items, and you didn't originally think of this e-commerce app, like there wasn't a strong association there. So the retention strategy was super helpful in increasing average order value, changing the brand perception, things like that. And, again, it was like phase 2 after they had success with just driving net new installers. I guess the even more difficult question is it a tragedy? Is it a rom-com? I just watched a movie with this actress, so it's fresh on my brain. I would pick Anne Hathaway, and part of me is I grew up watching like 90s movies, and I think she was one of those standout actresses. But yeah, I think she can embody the strong female lead and has like a cheerful, optimistic outlook.